Hi, Misfits. This is Kevin.
And this is Kate.
Welcome to Horrorwood.
Do, do, do,
Do,
do.
do, do, do.
It's not how our theme music goes at all, but
I know.
I'm turning you up a little bit. Keep talking.
Great.
Do you have anything to say?
Hi, Kate.
Hi, Kevin.
Good to see you.
You as well. We just saw each other this
Tuesday.
past Tuesday for the 4th. Thanks
4th
for
of
coming
July.
to our little celebration.
Thank you. I drank a lot.
It was amazing. I not to encourage alcoholism, but
Sure.
I think you should drink
Drink more.
all the time. It was really funny.
This isn't iced coffee. It's wine from a
Oh.
box. No.
My favorite part was the end of the night when you looked around and
Everyone was
realized-
gone.
and you said,
I was like, why did I stay?
I think I meant to leave with them.
Right.
And then you just kind of tiptoed out of our house.
Because I said goodbye, and then I noticed it was just you and Matt in the kitchen, and I was like, I should have left too. Why did I stay?
I mean, we wouldn't have minded.
No,
You could
sure.
have just hung out. But I laughed about that for so long because the look on your face and the way you said it, and then the way you creeped out down the stairs.
Right. Well, I got out to everyone, and they were in the front outside of the gate, and
Oh,
I was
good.
like, yeah, I was supposed to leave too. And they were like, we know.
We know. We were just talking about that.
Right. They're like, yeah, it's the end of the night.
Amazing. I hope all of you had a safe and happy 4th. And you have an announcement, Kevin, right?
Oh,
Yes.
Yes.
An exciting one.
So we have a new Patreon
Whoop,
member, Jessica Godby.
Hey, Jessica.
Hey, Jess.
This is your shout out.
What's up? I don't know why to go low, but yay! Welcome. Thank you.
Welcome. A new Misfit Murderino. We love it.
Yeah.
Which means she's going to get the fall gift
She's gonna
package.
get the ghosts.
Well, I don't know if I'm sending
I
a
know.
jar of ghosts.
I don't know why I keep. I think I already decided.
You're
that-
really pressing that one. I think it's going to be more than just an empty jar filled with a ghost.
an eraser. That's a ghost. So my mom used to be a teacher.
Okay. I was
And
where is this going?
No, this is random. I know, but there used to be this little shop off a road that we lived by, and it was a school supply shop, but
Oh.
it was shaped like an old timey schoolhouse.
Oh, cute.
And so we would always go there to get stuff for her classroom and stuff. But I would also pick up some school supplies for me.
Sure.
But I just remember they had bins and baskets of just eraser tops, for pencils, those big
Oh, yeah,
eraser
yeah.
things. And they always had Halloweeny ones, like ghosts
Oh.
and pumpkins.
I mean, don't put it past me because maybe I will get
Hey,
some of those.
there we go.
But yay, Jessica, thank you for signing up. And if you out there, I'm talking to you. Yes, you who's listening to this right now. If you want the fall gift package, not sure exactly what all's going to be in it yet, just make sure you sign up as a Misfit Murderino on Patreon by September 1st. We had been saying October 1st. I realized that's when I'm sending things out. So I need to know by September 1st, just so that I know how much I need to get of everything. So yeah, there's that. Any other announcements? Did we have any biz nasty to discuss?
Ooh, I don't think so. I think that's everything.
All right, I guess we're going to get right into this.
Into the story.
It's not a great one.
Oh, shit.
I've been wanting to do this case for a while. It's a really sad one because for one thing, she was so young. And two, it was just completely senseless, as most murders
As most
are.
murders are.
It's also a pretty recent case, and I feel
Wow.
like those are always a little harder
They're tough.
because we don't have as much distance from it.
Right. Is this another one that's kind of because we're the last one we did with the lady who managed the money of the stars? There didn't seem to be very much information. Is there like more?
We have some information, not a whole lot of detail, but I will say it definitely more than we had for the last one.
Okay.
Jonshel Alexander was born on Friday, February 26, 1999 in New Orleans. Her parents are Johnny and Shelly, so her name was a combination of the two, Jonshel, which is very cute.
Wait, her whole first name is Jonshel?
Jonshel.
That's amazing.
I know.
I love that.
I do too. It's pretty. She was the youngest of three. She had an older sister and an older brother. And according to the Times-Picayune, which is a New Orleans publication, she grew up in the 8th Ward on St. Claude Avenue. I'm not super familiar with New Orleans. I visited there once, but I was
Same.
a kid, so I don't really know much about the area. So I did a little research just to get a sense of where Jonshel grew up, and because, sadly, this is also where she passed away.
Oh, man. 8th Ward, is that like next to the French Quarter?
It's not next to it, but
Nearby?
kind of. I mean, I think it's one big city, so
Sure.
everything's kind of
close
nearby.
to each other.
Yeah. New Orleans has always had a rich cultural
Sure.
history, as I think we all are aware. And like most large cities, there are neighborhoods that are considered to be generally safe and neighborhoods that have a higher crime rate.
Yes.
There are, of course, the big tourist attractions like the French Quarter and also the Garden District. But the further away you get from those areas, the higher the crime rate goes.
Okay.
The city is divided into wards. There are uptown wards and downtown wards. The uptown wards are generally considered to be more affluent. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the 7th and 8th wards and a little bit about the 9th as well, because they tend to get grouped together.
One of the one of
That's
the
a word.
most fun things I did in New Orleans was I took a bus out to the swamps.
Ooh.
And I got in one of those boats with the big fan on the back. I forget what those are called.
I don't know what they're called.
Either. Hover boats or something. Yes.
Like a
hovering.
hoverboard?
Yeah. And we flew through the swamp.
Oh,
and,
wow. Was it
just
like a tour?
Yeah, it was a tour.
That's
and
cool.
alligators everywhere. Just all over. He took us right up to alligators. And like we were flying over the water. It was literally, it was the best. It was the
That
best.
sounds really cool.
I had the best time.
There's a lot of cool stuff in New Orleans. I wish, I want to go back because I think I was 12 when I went there. And so, I was with my mom and we were there for another thing. And so we didn't do a lot of sightseeing.
Okay. Yeah, I took one of the ghost tours in the French Quarter. And the lady was like dressed
That's
all in
cool.
black with a veil. It was really great. And then I ran into her the next day on the street, like outside of my hotel. And she was like, "Oh my gosh, hey, thanks for coming." And she stopped and she was like, "So you're visiting? Are you by yourself?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Okay, well, here's all the things you need to go see and do.
Oh, fun.
And here's like some fun places to go eat." So it was lovely people.
That's awesome. Yeah, the people there's definitely like a sense of community there. We're going to talk about that. So the 7th and 8th wards and 9th are considered back of town. They're north of the Mississippi River. They're considered downtown wards. These areas are rarely visited by people outside of the city. They're not a big tourist draw. They were hit pretty hard by Hurricane Katrina in 2005. Many people died. A lot of people lost their homes, their businesses. They were displaced. According to Encyclopedia Britannica, between 2005, when Katrina hit, and 2011, the population of New Orleans fell by 29%.
Holy shit.
Yeah, that is a lot. It took
That's a huge
years
amount.
to try and rebuild the city. And many residents did return to the area eventually, but by 2020, the population was still 20% less than it was in the year 2000. That's a huge drop off. That is a fifth of your population just gone.
I get it though. I mean, like once something like that happens and you know you're not safe and your life is at risk.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I understand. Yeah, I understand leaving. I also understand the people that came back and, tried to rebuild.
Well, sure. I mean, that's their home and their culture.
Of course. But yeah, you lose a lot of your community, I think, and your just like sense of where you're from when a big natural disaster like that occurs. According to several statistical sites I looked at, there's an elevated crime rate in these particular wards that we're talking about, largely due to poverty, gang activity, and drugs. Those seem to be the top 3 causes. The overall crime rate in this area is about 370% higher than the national average.
370%?
Yes. With a violent crime rate more than 620% higher than the national average.
Holy shit.
That's wild.
That is wild. Do you know how that compares to like our city, to Chicago?
I didn't do the comparison.
Okay, no worries.
You know what? I lied. I did look up Chicago.
Okay.
Chicago was like maybe, I want to say 100-something% higher than that.
So I mean, still high,
but
not as bad.
In New Orleans, it was just like
skyrocket.
Yeah,
That's
it was
insane.
wild.
Wow.
Despite these statistics, though, it's also a place of community and culture and celebration. Something director Ben Zeitlin really sparked to when he visited the area in 2006.
Oh, wow.
Ben, who was originally from New York, eventually moved to New Orleans and made his short film Glory at Sea there, which was released in 2008. There's a pretty wild incident that took place while he was making that film. So the entire production crew, which consisted of 25 people, which is very small for a production crew,
right.
They didn't have any money. You know, they're an independent crew, so they all lived together during filming in one house in New Orleans that, even though it was still standing post-Katrina, there was mildew. It was in bad shape.
Oh, my God. Wait, and all 25 of them?
All 25 of them are in this house. One day, the house was burglarized, and among the things stolen were the hard drives containing all the footage they had shot so far for Glory at Sea. So the crew posted flyers all around the neighborhood offering a reward for the stolen footage. I don't think they cared about anything else that was taken, but they wanted their movie back.
Well, yeah. And I mean, what the fuck is someone going to do with footage?
They might not have known what it was. You know, they're just like,
it's
hard
just,
drives,
right,
you know.
Right. Sneaking in, being like, I'm going to take all these movies.
I'm the director now.
I'm the director.
Not long after posting the flyers, the crew got a phone call from the thieves themselves. Saying, sure, they'd return the footage for that reward. And they arranged to meet at a restaurant in the area, no questions asked. Crew members from the production arrived at the restaurant with cash. They ordered some drinks and waited. And waited.
Nothing.
And waited. Hours went by. Meanwhile, these crew members are getting trashed because they have nothing better to do. They're just sitting there drinking all day.
And waiting.
And they're talking to the other customers in the restaurant, and they start telling them what had happened, you know, why they're there waiting. So these customers are pissed for this production team. They're like, BRB. And they go to their houses and come back with weapons.
No, this is bad.
They've got knives. One guy has a shotgun. So now you've got this small independent production crew.
That's awful.
It is awful, but like also
like, I'm going to go grab my gun.
It's wild. So you've got this independent production crew with these local residents armed with weapons, all of them sitting in this restaurant waiting for the thieves to come in so they can get their movie back. Finally, 2 people, the thieves apparently, showed up with the footage. And thankfully there was no trouble. But the guy with the shotgun went up to them as they were leaving and said, if anyone ever goes in that house again, they're going to have to answer to God. It's like,
okay,
whoa.
Calm your shit.
That escalated. But also these residents really rallied behind this crew.
I mean, that's kind of nice to have that support. But also, like, let's kind of get away from the violence.
Exactly.
You know?
My thoughts exactly. Glory at Sea ended up being the precursor for Ben's next film, his first feature-length production, Beast of the Southern Wild.
I've heard of... Wait a second.
It was huge. Of course you've heard of it.
That was a huge movie.
Yes.
Was that with Quivanchine Wallace?
Sure was.
That was such a good movie.
Just as he had with Glory at Sea, Ben wanted to use local residents of New Orleans as the main characters in Beast of the Southern Wild.
Yeah.
From early on, Jonshel Alexander demonstrated a love and a talent for the arts and for performing. As one article put it, she had, quote, a ferocious creativity. She got into cheerleading. She was a dancer. She took modeling and acting classes. She had no qualms whatsoever about putting herself out there. She was fearless. So when director Ben Zeitlin announced auditions for his movie, Jonshel was determined to get a part. She told her mom, Shelly, I'm going to be in this movie. Auditions were held at a school that had closed down due to damage from Hurricane Katrina. More than 4,000 people auditioned.
Whoa.
Jonshel initially auditioned for the role of Hush Puppy, which is the female lead.
Yeah.
Which is the one that went to Kavanjane.
Yeah.
But they really wanted someone around 6 years old for that part.
Sure.
And Jonshel was around 10 or 11 when she auditioned.
So she's a little older.
Yeah, a little too old. Kavanjane Wallace lied and said she was 6 because that was the youngest they were willing to audition, but she was actually 5 at the time. But she got the part.
I mean, hey, the right thing happened.
So, yeah, I think so. Even though Jonshel didn't get the role of Hush Puppy, she really impressed the filmmakers.
Good for her.
They fell in love with her.
Jonshel.
Ben Zeitlin described her as, quote, an absolute one-of-a-kind, unforgettable force of nature human being.
Yes, she is.
Right? He was so captivated by her that he cast her in the supporting role and took a lot of inspiration from Jonshel herself. He told the Associated Press, quote, a lot of the lines were written by her, and so much of the character grew out of who Jonshel was. Her character in the film is named Joy Strong, which always seemed like a perfect description of Jonshel.
So she's in the movie.
She's in the movie.
Okay.
She plays Hush Puppy's friend.
Hush Puppy's friend.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. I need to go back and revisit that.
Mm-hmm. She was 13 years old when the film was released in July of 2012.
Mm-hmm.
To be that young and have adults, like these professionals in the field, say that about you.
I mean, when you're a kid and you're younger and you know, coming up like that and adults praising you, that feels so good.
And
it's so validating.
Because a lot of kids at that age do not
get that kind of support.
No, and a lot of them don't have their shit together the way Jonshel did either. I mean, you're still figuring things out, you know, but she was very headstrong and she knew who she was.
When I was 13, I was listening to Spice Girls and making up dances in my bedroom.
There is nothing wrong with that.
Do you want to see? I
do.
Up.
I do, actually. Later.
Get it. You just hear Backstreet Boys playing really loud in the background.
Amazing.
Continue. Sorry.
Okay. So I think it just really speaks to the character of Jonshel, who she was.
She knew what she wanted.
Yep.
At 13, which more power to you.
Yes. Dwight Henry was cast as Wink, the father of Hush Puppy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And Dwight knew Jonshel long before they appeared together on screen. He ran a bakery on St. Claude Avenue right next to where Jonshel and her family lived.
That's amazing. I remember him being a baker.
Yes.
That. Okay.
He said, so he has this story. He said, quote, I remember it like it was yesterday. Jonshel walked into the donut shop like she owned the place. Walked behind the counter, grabbed a handful of the donut holes, put them in a bag. I looked at her, she looked at me, and she just walked out the door.
Good for her.
Right?
The last time I tried that, got arrested.
Shut up.
I'm sorry.
You did not get arrested.
I know, I didn't. I'm just joking.
She was bold.
That's amazing. And
the fact that they were both cast and they knew each other made the whole experience even that more special for the two of them.
Definitely.
In an interview with the Times-Picayune, Shelly, Jonshel's mom, said of her, quote, she would just light up any room. She was jazzy. She was feisty. Literally what I aspire to every day.
Jazzy.
And I love the way she says it, too. She says, she was jazzy. She was not spicy, feisty. But
I mean, hey.
Yeah. She also said Jonshel was spoiled. It was her way or no way.
Okay.
Which I feel like is sometimes par for the course when you're the youngest.
Yeah, I was going to say like a young teenager.
Mm-hmm. And Ben Zeitlin said, quote, she was a really bright burning light. Beast of the Southern Wild went on to win the Grand Jury Prize at the Sundance Film Festival and was nominated for 4 Academy Awards. But even after all the film's success, Jonshel didn't have any ambitions to be in another movie. She was just kind of like,
I did it. Now it's time for something else.
She's like, I'm good.
Fair.
But she did stay active in the arts. When she attended Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. High School, she continued dancing. She was also on the cheerleading team. And after she graduated, Jonshel got a job as a hostess at a restaurant. I believe she worked for a few different restaurants around the area.
Okay.
Shortly after, she got pregnant and gave birth to a daughter, Divine Robinson.
I love that name.
I do too, Divine. And I like the way she spells it. It's DE-VYNNE. Divine.
Divine.
I like it. I believe Divine was born in 2020. I'm not sure of the exact date, but because I haven't seen that posted anywhere. Jonshel was a devoted mom. She loved that little girl and was dedicated to giving her the best life she could. She worked hard. She was responsible. She had a great attitude. And as her mom said, she brought life to everything. But tragically, her life would come to an end over Thanksgiving weekend in 2021. On the evening of Saturday, November 27th, she and a male companion were driving along in the 7th Ward, probably just hanging out like people do. It's a holiday weekend. You've been with your family for days. You're probably ready to get a breath of fresh air, hang out with your friends. The two were sitting at the intersection of Claiborne Avenue and Columbus Street. There's not a ton around there, but on the corner there is a pretty well-reviewed Cajun seafood restaurant, aptly named Cajun Seafood. I see it in a lot of like photos and stuff, and it has good reviews. So
100%. Like I think one of the best restaurants I went to there was just kind of like it looked like an old sort of like family dinery place, kind of run down, but the food,
but delicious.
Oh my gosh.
And the area is a bit run down at this intersection, mainly because there's an interstate that runs directly over it, which is kind of annoying.
That sucks.
At around 9:00 p.m., a man in a red or maroon colored truck pulled up nearby. He was wearing tan or white pants, a tan or white jacket, and a blue ski mask covering his face. We have that information because a video surveillance camera in the area captured his image, and I'll post that picture. He walked up to the car Jonshel and her friend were sitting in and just started shooting.
What the fuck?
Both Jonshel and her friend were hit, and the suspect quickly fled the scene.
What?
When police arrived, they found Jonshel lying unresponsive in the street. It's unclear if she was trying to get somewhere for help or what. We don't know how she came to be lying in the street. When paramedics arrived, they unfortunately did pronounce her dead at the scene from a single gunshot wound. She was 22 years old. Her friend, who was also shot, was able to drive himself to a hospital for treatment.
Oh, my God.
And as far as I can tell, he did survive, and his name has never been released publicly. But authorities believe he was the intended target of the gunman, and Jonshel got caught in the crossfire.
God damn it.
I hate guns. Like, I really, really, really am just sick of guns.
I agree with you, Kate. And, you know, they're meaningless. Like, we shouldn't even...
What's the point?
There's no point in having
Absolutely not. It makes me so angry.
Look at the countries that, like, have banned guns. And look, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm over it. And nobody's doing anything.
No. I mean, it's a whole other topic, but damn, I fucking hate guns. Shelly Alexander told the local news station, quote, "When I got the phone call, I just dropped to my knees. I didn't know what to think." Jonshel's dad, Johnny, was at work when he found out. He said, quote, "Right then and there, I froze. I just stood still for like 2 hours and I didn't do nothing because, man, that was my baby girl." Shortly after the shooting, police did find that red truck miles away. It had been torched. However, they did not find the gunman. And as far as I can tell, and I looked through a ton of articles, the suspect has never been caught.
Oh my God. Never been apprehended.
Nope. Police have asked for help in identifying him, and they released that photo I mentioned earlier from the security camera. But unfortunately, you can't make out any distinguishing features.
Oh my God.
And his face is covered with that mask. So
I mean, who was the car registered to?
That's the thing. I don't know if they found that. I wondered that
Okay.
too, and I was looking for that. Could have been stolen.
Right.
You know, we just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of this episode, I'm going to give the detectives info as well as numbers you can call if you have
amazing.
information. And you can do so anonymously. I'm also going to list that info in the show notes.
Mm-hmm.
Upon hearing the news of Jonshel's death, tributes began pouring in. Her director, Ben Zeitlin, said he was completely devastated when he heard she'd been killed. Kavanjane Wallace posted some pictures of them from on set and wrote,
Aww.
"When we were filming, we were always together, and I wish I could go back in time so I can see you again. I love you." But the one that really got me was from her co-star Dwight Henry, who played Wink and owned that bakery.
Mm-hmm.
He said, quote, "She lit up the screen, and it hurts me. I'm telling you, it hurts my heart." He said she was a fireball and commanded that set.
Mm-hmm.
And she was so smart and beautiful. I'm going to post a picture. She was gorgeous. Then he started looking at pictures from the set when they did the movie. And he said, quote, "Special moments, memories that I'll never forget, you know, because certain things you can forget memories. But, you know, things like this, when you have pictures of her, man, I'm always looking at this and remember Jonshel. I remember this one scene here like it was yesterday. She was so special." Jonshel's family threw her a celebration of life fit for a queen.
Amazing.
I think her favorite color must have been yellow because she was buried in a yellow dress, and everyone at her celebration of life wore yellow.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it was a yellow dress, yellow shoes, yellow fingernail polish, everyone was in yellow, black, and white. And yellow is also just like a joyful color. You just think happiness and celebration, I feel. Her 1-year-old daughter and her mom, Shelly, wore matching bright yellow outfits. And just before the casket was closed, a crown, like an actual crown, was placed on her.
Wow.
And it was very ceremonious too. There's a guy who kind of does this dance or march, I should say, down the aisle. And very, like, it's a big presentation.
Like ceremoniously,
yes.
like, presents it. That's gorgeous.
It's
I've never heard
beautiful.
of that. I'd love to see I'd love to see that.
Yeah, there is a video of it online, which is how I found out about it. And it's beautiful. A lot of people spoke about her. There was singing. There was a lot of dancing. The dancing carried out into the streets. There was a marching band. I mean, it was like a party. She was buried in a white casket covered in yellow roses and white carnations. But before it was carried to the cemetery in the hearse, it was first loaded onto a white carriage.
Whoa.
Led by white Clydesdales. And they paraded through the streets. There was so much dancing. It was joyous. It's really beautiful to watch. They actually paraded down through the intersection where she was killed. And it seemed like it was an act of defiance in a way, like to say, this is not going to be the place we remember as where she was murdered. It's going to be the place where we celebrate her life.
Celebrate her, not what happened to her.
Exactly.
That's really beautiful.
I don't know that I'll post a link to the video, but it could be found.
Out there.
Yeah, it's out there. When that time comes, that there can be a party even half as joyous as this one was, I will rest easy.
Oh, I love that. Also, when you said go, I was like, to New Orleans? That was my first thought.
I mean, I meant a little, hopefully further after that.
I figured that out.
But we should go to New Orleans. Field trip.
The ghosts.
At the cemetery, they released white doves into the air. The whole thing was beautiful. As I mentioned before, it does not seem as though Jonshel's killer has been caught. If someone listening to this knows otherwise, please get in touch so we can update that. But police asked the community for help identifying the man. Anyone with information can call homicide detective Brittany Kimbrough at 504-658-5300 or call Crimestoppers of Greater New Orleans. You can do so anonymously at 504-822-1111 or 877-903-7867. And I'm going to put all of that info in the show notes. Like I said, Jonshel left behind a 1-year-old daughter. She would be between 2 and 3 now. A GoFundMe was set up to raise money for her, and it is still active.
Oh, wow.
I was able to donate to it, and I'll post the link for it in the show notes as well. If you can even just put in $5, whatever you're able.
That's
every
really
little
nice.
bit helps.
Do we know how much has been like raised so far?
The last time I looked, because all the donations kind of stopped a year ago.
Okay.
And it was $2,700 at the time. Their goal was $10,000.
Gotcha.
So I donated 20. It went up to $2,720. I haven't checked today, but it hasn't been. There's been no activity.
There hasn't been any activity.
But it is still open.
Sure.
So I assume that they're still taking donations. I have not been. I didn't get a bounce back from GoFundMe.
Oh, good. Yeah.
The note from the family says, "We have started this GoFundMe to raise money so that Divine can have a strong, supported, and fulfilling upbringing, even in the absence of her mother, who loved her so much. And I just want to extend our condolences to Jonshel's family. She seemed like such a light." I'm going to end this with something she used to say.
Oh.
According to one of her family members, and this was kind of a catchphrase of hers, instead of saying like, "What's up?" or "How it's going," Jonshel would say, "What's the deal, pickle?"
Shut up.
I fucking love that. I think it captures the kind of personality she had.
She sounds like the coolest.
She
you know
really
what
does.
I mean? Like her name, her attitude, her little quips.
I love it.
So
she was jazzy. She was feisty.
Yeah.
We should all strive to be that way. And that is the case of Jonshel Alexander. I know this was kind of a shorter one.
I am really curious about the friend. I would love to know more about him. I mean, obviously that's not out there and is probably being protected for,
his safety.
For his safety and for the case, I'm sure. But at the same time, it's like,
that's the
someone's
thing.
got to know I mean, if he's someone's enemy.
That's what I was going to say. If he was the target, surely he knows who it was.
Right. Or maybe it was like a mistaken target. Like you always hear basically, like most of those drive-bys that you get news on, it's always like, oh, misidentified, wrong person. Oops.
Yeah. So we don't know. And I looked hard. So it could be a thing where the case has been solved, but the news just didn't.
Oh, it dropped it and didn't pick it up. Yeah.
Which would really suck. But yeah, if anyone here is listening that's in New Orleans and knows about this case, we would love to know. You can either leave it in the comments on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube at
Horrorwood Podcast.
Or you can email it to us at
horrorwoodpodcast@gmail.com.
And you can also, while you're donating to the GoFundMe for Divine, you can also hop on over to Patreon and sign up as one of our newest Patronians at
patreon.com/horrorwoodpodcast.
And that's that on that.
Whoa.
It's awful.
It is really awful. And it's so fucking senseless.
That's the thing.
It's just
like why?
Targeted attacks, like why do you need to include other people? What do you get from that other than you're just a fucking sadist murderer?
Yeah.
Who just is going to take out anybody? That's just I can't.
I fucking hate guns so much
it's
because
awful.
It seems like the most pointless thing to have.
Right.
And if no one had the guns, like in a dream world, if they just got rid of all the guns, like put them all in a pile and melted them down into the ground, the crime would go down because the gun thing, like if you're going to shoot somebody, it's like a coward move because you don't have to get close to them.
Right.
Whereas like if you were to use some other method, I'm not condoning it at all. I'm not being like,
it's like use a knife, use a screwdriver.
Right. It's like you have to have to be brazen enough to get up close to that person
and do that to someone, right?
And they have a lot more chance to get away because they see you coming at them supposedly. And kind of getting on a tangent, but like I just fucking hate guns.
Yeah. No, take them out. Get rid of them.
You know what I'm about to get rid of?
What?
Us. Right now on this podcast.
Oh no.
We're saying goodbye. Goodbye.
Goodbye.